You're listening to Making Money Online, the podcast that talks about how to make income with impact and have a thriving business. We don't just talk about business, we talk about everything that affects your business too. This episode is sponsored by our friends at Autumn. You know me. I'm all about finding new ways to work smarter and give my time to the work and people that matter most. But like every entrepreneur, I've had those weeks where I am stuck in the weeds, answering the same questions over and over, stepping in to fix things, and my absolute pet hate, having to chase people for updates. And sometimes things don't seem to move forward unless it's me stepping in, right? Well, I'm excited to let you know that I've discovered Autumn. That's AUTM. And honestly, it's unreal. The team at Autumn are helping us shape the next chapter of how we run our world so we can deliver even more impact. It's actually the first AI I've found that actually does stuff that I want it to do. It doesn't just answer questions, it takes action, connecting my emails, calendar, projects, team, everything. And it just keeps things moving. But best of all, it just gets on with the work without me needing to check or chase anything. No setup, no stress, no training. Autumn aligns perfectly with my mission. It's designed to give us back our headspace, our time, and our focus for the thing that really moves our business forward. And that matters most to me personally, the impact that we're making. Autumn is a great investment, sure, but more than that, it's what we all need to help us fall back in love with running our businesses. Trust me, it's going to blow your mind and you are going to love it. Head to autumn.ai/Lisa to save 50% on your first month and see for yourself why it's such a game changer. Ready to go further faster? Just autumn it. When I realised that impact was so important to me earlier this year, I knew that to make a real impact, I was going to have to get into some uncomfortable conversations. This next episode is one of those times. My guest Cally Stewart and I haven't spoken to each other in over 2 years, and I was actually surprised when she agreed to come onto this podcast when I reached out. But here we are, and I'm ready to explore the inner workings of female friendships. Thank you for being here, Cally. It's really weird sitting across from you because obviously I've seen you at industry events, but we haven't actually spoken for over 2 years, I'd say.
Yeah, 3 and a bit.
Is it 3 and a bit?
The last time we spoke was at a day that you hosted when I was in DI, which I think was...
That was 3 years ago then.
Yeah, 2021.
That's crazy.
Yeah, maybe 4.
Yeah, it might be 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now here we are. And we've spoken to each other on text over the past few days and just said, because I invited you here, let's be really honest about it, you were worried.
I still am.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, it could be a trap or any of those kind of things.
Yeah.
But you were brave. And you said, yeah, I'm going to do it anyway and see what comes of it. Because I think one of the things that you really want to help is other people.
Massively.
And we help other people when we come together and we talk about the difficult conversations, and we've had that conversation.
Yeah.
So one of the things I want to talk about, let's just quickly talk about what your work is and why this is such a pivotal conversation for you. So I had no idea what your work was now. And then, so I was going to be doing a podcast on how there are often misunderstandings with women. And I think we're in this industry, especially, there are some really difficult, I don't even know how to say it. There are difficulties with women.
I've never, ever known anything to be like this industry.
Me either.
Yeah.
And not with men. So I'm in quite a lot of spaces with men now and they're not having these problems.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I wish I could get somebody on to talk about that, but I don't know anyone that does that. And then someone said, you do that. Yeah. And I was like, that's brilliant, because actually what an incredible conversation we can have knowing that that's what you do now and the past that we've had. And so I thought, why not dissect what happened between us? But if I'm going to do that with you anyway, let's do that for everyone, because then they will see that things can happen and get out of hand and they don't have to. And what we would have done and what we should have done earlier to stop that from getting to where it's gone now.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's what I would like to do. So we're going back a bit here, but Cally you were in my mastermind for a year.
Yeah.
And everything was fine in that mastermind. We weren't best mates, but we were very respectful of each other and we knew what each other did and everything was generally happy.
Yeah.
And you knew, I think, about my background. a bit of it, even if you didn't know all of it, about being bullied. And I knew a little bit about yours as well.
Yeah.
And then I think it was a few months after that, we hadn't really spoken to each other much. DI'd finished. And there was suddenly everyone was talking about this newspaper article. And I think about 50 people sent me this newspaper article that you were in. Now, I know now more than I did then that things can get twisted in newspaper articles.
100%. Yeah.
And that often what you say is not what you said, or it is, but they twist, they put their own spin on it. Like with me, they came over to my house and did a piece. I'm never in the Sun now and I won't be in it, or the Mail, because they've twisted so many things I've said. But one of the things they came over to my house and said they wanted to do one about how Sam is the cook and I'm the breadwinner. Yeah. And they took a picture of me pointing a remote at the TV and it became one about me being lazy while my husband did everything. So that was my last straw. Yeah. But this was an article about you. Well, you tell me what the article was about because I don't want to put words into your mouth.
So the article itself wasn't really supposed to be an article. So what had happened was I had done a post on Facebook and the post came about because I was having a conversation with somebody who said to me, have you seen what such and such is doing? And don't you think blah, blah, blah? And I almost found myself about to say like, yeah, like, ugh, gross, like, and I really caught myself and I was like, that isn't me. Why am I doing that? And that prompted me to then do the Facebook post. So the Facebook post actually started with, I used to be a bitch.
Oh, really?
So the Facebook post said, I used to be a bitch. And then the context of the post was, if you find yourself being a bitch unnecessarily to other women, check yourself. And I had written in this post, I used to be a bitch because I was insecure, because I felt totally unworthy of everything I was doing. And for that small glimpse of, well, she's also not very nice, I felt a little like I might
like a dopamine hit.
Yeah, exactly that. So I'd done this post. And the post itself was quite controversial. So it was a lot of hit and miss. I had some women saying, wow, like, I get this and I do that too.
We've all done that.
And I think all women have done it. It's just the level that they're prepared to disclose that they've done it. And then I had some women say like, this is disgusting, this is and that, I get that. Some people have their own personal views and trauma. What I'd said was activating and triggering, fine. What then followed was somebody reached out to me and said, I think this would be a great media story.
Right.
I'd never had any media training. I'd never been in the press. I'd never done anything. And so quite naively, I was like, well, if it helps people, like, let's talk about it. So they came to my house. They took a full story. They took some pictures. They did all these things. And then they were like, oh, we'll let you know when it runs.
Oh, so you had no read back?
Nothing. I did not know enough to ask for any of that stuff. Yeah. So I was just like, oh, this is great. I'm going to be in a newspaper. When I tell you the Cally that did that article was dumb as shit, she was dumb as shit, right? But we've
all been there. We've not known what they're going to do and what they're going to twist.
Yeah. And so I actually did the article, I did the interview, I did the photos, they went away. And then I did a retreat in Greece. I was in Greece with clients of mine. And I think we were 4 days into a 6-day retreat and my phone did not stop buzzing. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And I opened my phone and the messages could not come through quick enough. And what happened over the course of a week changed how I did everything in business. I had hundreds of people unfriend me, which is fine again.
What was in the article?
Oh, so it was the headline. So the article itself, to be fair, was controversial, but the topic was controversial. I accepted that. It was the headline that they changed.
I think the headline is the only bit I've seen.
So the headline read, I used to be a bully who called my friends fat and tormented people for 20 years. And I was gobsmacked. I had never used the word bully. I wouldn't consider myself to be a bully. I'd considered myself to be a bitch, hadn't considered myself to be a bully. And I do understand, looking back now, that that's subjective. Somebody else might have considered my behaviour bullying, and that's...
We're a villain in some people's story and not in others.
Exactly. But the messages that came through thick and fast, I didn't know what had happened. I couldn't, and the messages ranged from my husband and my family being like, answer the phone, are you okay? To strangers I had never even heard of calling me the most god-awful things. And it took me about an hour or two with clients around me to figure out what had gone on.
What's happened?
And so I couldn't do anything about it. I flew back to the UK 2 days later, and in the 48 hours that it had taken me to come back to the UK, a syndicate had picked it up. Now, I didn't know what a syndicate was.
I wouldn't have known then either, but I do now.
I didn't know that what they had done was possible. But basically what they had done is they had lifted the story that was running the Sun, which they can legally do, and then had sold it to hundreds of outlets and online media. And so in the space of 48 hours, I had gone from what I thought was quite a vulnerable article about the fact that women can be bitchy when they feel insecure to the world's most hated woman. Every single newspaper I'd ever heard of had just got, I used to be a bully, all over it. And of course, the one thing they tell you is never check the comment section.
But we do check the comment section.
The comment section was horrific.
I can imagine.
And ironically, the amount of bullying I received was absolutely atrocious. Up to and including, and I was actually talking about this the other day because I had mentioned to my close circle of friends that I might be coming here to do this. And one of the things they said to me was, but if you start talking about the article, it will bring it back to the surface and remember what you went through. And the scariest thing for me that I went through was one particular weirdo had spent their time screenshotting my LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram of every single picture I'd ever shared of my kids and sent it to me in a zip folder, saying that they were going to use those pictures to work out my kids' names, details, address, school, and then they were going to go and find my kids and bully my kids the way I'd bullied others. And so we ended up having to get the police involved. Like, we had to have protection detail. We didn't need a protection detail, but we had people that would go to the school regularly to check that my kids were okay.
It's awful.
Yeah.
And this is the side this is why I wanted to talk about it, because I would have no idea that any of that happened. Yeah. And I think what I'm trying to show here is that we only ever see life through our lens. We don't see life through the other person's lens. So I wouldn't have known that happened. So let's go to the other side and show you what happened from my view. So I got 50 people sending me different newspaper articles. You're right, it did syndicate.
Everywhere.
All of them saying that you were a bully, but it kind of sounded like you didn't care. They'd made it sound like you didn't care that you were and that you were very proud of it. Yeah. It didn't go into the detail of, what you had actually said in that post was it was because you were insecure and you didn't like doing it. I had no idea of that. Yeah. And I spiraled very quickly because I have been bullied so badly. And this is why I think you got a lot of hate about it, because when people are bullied, the triggers that come up for you, your whole life after that is really hard. And mine really have been. I've been suicidal because of bullying. And so I immediately, with not even a second to spare, blocked you. Yeah. And a mutual friend of ours, we'll keep it as that, said to me, I think you should tell her why you're annoyed with her. And I said, I don't want to. I don't want to have this conversation. And she said, yeah, you should tell her. It's really unfair that she's done this. She's worked with you and yet she's happy to be a bully. And I couldn't even do that. I was like, I can't have this anywhere near me. I can't see people discussing it in groups. Yeah. I blocked not just you, but anybody that was discussing it in any group because I couldn't handle what it brought back for me from my childhood. So I just blocked you and thought, in a few months, this will be gone away and I will unblock her. Yeah. But we didn't get to that point because what you saw from your end is someone that you thought was someone you trusted judging you.
Massively. And I think for me, and I think this is one of the things that, and I talk about this quite regularly, is not only in that moment did I think, here's somebody that I've invested time, energy, money, my life into, without explanation, has just completely cut me off.
Yeah.
But because you are quite prolific, you have a huge following.
Yeah.
And I would go as far as to say that a section of your following is very cult-like. The minute you said anything, people came into my inbox.
Yeah.
Do you know this has been said? Do you know that's been said? I got unfriended from people I didn't even understand. I got blocked from going to events that I didn't even understand. And the backlash of that.
But at that point, I'd said nothing. Yeah. I'd just blocked you because I didn't know what to say. I really didn't know what to do about it. I thought that I misread you and that you were a bad person. And I had read you always as a decent person. And I thought, I've got it wrong again. This is a bad person that's come into my world. And so I just blocked you. And then you wrote a post, which I can laugh about now. It's fine. Which I can see why you wrote it as well, by the way, because you thought I was judging you. So you wrote a post calling me some names. I'm not even going to say what.
I called you a bitch.
Yeah, you called me a weak, judgy bitch.
Yeah.
And I.
Okay.
And I didn't see that, by the way. I heard it.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't see it because I blocked you. But I can't tell you the amount of people that told me that you'd written that. But I didn't get any context with it.
Yeah.
All I got, she's calling you this online because she thinks you judged her. And I spoke to this same person and said, that isn't why I've done it. That isn't why. And she said, I'm going to write on her post and I'm going to tell her that isn't why, and that it just triggered something for you. And I don't know if she did that or not, but that's what she said she was going to do.
If we're talking about the same person, she did write on my post and she also messaged me.
Okay, good. Yeah. So that happened. And then when you called me something, then the trigger came out. So for me, I was then not a nice person. And I hold my hands up to this now, because what I'd seen from that point was you'd admitted you were a bully and now you were bullying me. That is what was in my head. And so I did what I always do when I'm bullied, always did. I don't now. We'll have that conversation. I went on the mass defensive. Yeah. And so I said some mean things. I think I even did a live about it.
It was the live that I heard about.
Yeah.
So I did 2 posts about you.
Did you? I only thought
in quick succession. Like in the interest of being transparent.
Yeah, I think we should.
Spoke about this before the podcast. One of the things that I'd said was, if we're going to do this, let's do it right.
We have to be honest about it.
And I did 2 posts about you. I did the first post, which was definitely a reaction. It was a reaction to being blocked and not understanding why, but also surmising why based on what I thought I knew and understood. And
remembering as well that you were having all this other stuff going on at the time, which would have definitely pushed you into doing those kind of things.
Yeah. And I find the bit that I find really challenging to talk about now is I'm talking about an event from 2.5 years ago as a very different person.
Of course, me too.
Like, I'm talking about this today and I'm already applying knowledge that I know now, and I shouldn't, because at the time I didn't know that knowledge. Yeah. At the time, what I knew was, here is somebody that I've invested, or what I felt like I'd invested a lot into, who has cut me off with no understanding, and there was a pattern of doing that, and a pattern of call out, and that defensiveness that you spoke about. Yeah. And so instantly I was like, right, this person's cut me off.
She's going to call me out.
She's going to call me out. And so I did the first post where I said, judgy bitch. And then I think it was maybe 2 or 3 days later, my inbox did not stop. And I had to get to the point where I had to say to people, if you're hearing Lisa on a live talk about me to the point where it's making you come into my inbox, say something to her, not to me.
Yeah.
I'm not listening anymore. If you're that bothered, you'd be out there saying something, and you're not. But what it did was riled me up. So I did a second post, and my second post was, it started with, you can't sit with me. That was the post, because you'd recently renamed your membership. Yeah, and so I just wrote, you can't sit with me. And I listed all of the reasons why we get into mean girl culture, and how it was absolutely unacceptable that as a giant in our industry, which is what, I'd now got this barrage of people that didn't know me, didn't understand me, coming at me because they'd heard a one-sided live in a membership.
Which was, it hadn't even mentioned your name.
Yeah, it was just crazy.
People go crazy. And they do. And actually, I want to talk at some point about the middle people, because I think that's one of the most interesting things about this online space.
Yes.
So that's what happened. And then people told me only about one of those, by the way, not about the second. And that was that. We never spoke again, really. And you kind of had your side, and people would come to me and say the reasons they didn't like you. And I'm sure that people would have come to you and said the reasons they didn't like me, because that's always what happens in this industry. Yeah. And some sides seem to have been drawn. And then we'd hear, and I'm sure this would have happened to you as well, I'd hear little things, oh, she said this about you at some party, or this was said about you, or, they're going to do this thing at this event and walk out on you, and these kind of things. And to be honest with you, I ignored them all, because at this point I was on a growth journey. Yeah. And I think you probably were too at that point, because you've changed completely what you do. And then we got to this point. And the reason that I wanted to discuss this first is to say that we're going to be talking today about friendships and how they change. We, although we're talking about it, are not immune to those things happening to us.
Yeah.
We all go through these things. We all have misunderstandings. And even just listening to you talk about the side that you were feeling then, I can totally put myself into your shoes and understand why you would have been annoyed at all of the things.
Yeah, I was fuming. I wasn't annoyed.
You were angry.
I was angry. And I was angry from a perspective of, I was angry personally because I felt like we'd had this relationship.
We did have a connection.
And with no explanation, you just cut me out. So I was angry personally for me. Yeah. I was then angry on behalf of every other person that had ever felt that you'd done that to them too.
Yeah.
I was then angry at the fact that I thought, here's this woman who I have spent 2 years personally investing in, who I have heard say, I stand up for this and I call out this and I'm against this. And all of a sudden I'm in this position where this is an opportunity for this person to come forward and be like, actually, this isn't okay. And as a leader in this field, let's talk about this.
But I thought it was okay. Because what I was seeing is she's bullying people and she's happy about it. And that's the thing I call out the most out of everything in anything I've ever done. I call out bullies.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw you as. Like, you were just another bully that had come across me. And because of the stuff you did afterwards, which I now understand why you did, you cemented that in my head as, oh, she is a bully. Look what she's saying. Yeah. But you weren't. You were just hurt.
Yeah, I think I was hurt.
I was definitely hurt. And I can see that now. I would have said I was angry before, but actually I was hurt.
Yeah. I think at the time, anger was what I felt. But looking back with that lens that we have now, I definitely feel like I was hurt. But I also, in that, which is a really strange phenomenon that happened that I didn't realise was happening at the time, but I have realised since, is in the online space in particular, you have to give somebody something to fight for.
You do.
And you have to give them something to fight against. And what I did in that moment of saying, Lisa's a bitch, because that in effect is what I said.
Yeah.
I gave a space to everybody else that had been hurt by you.
That's what we always do.
Yeah. And so I suddenly got all of these people that were like, we don't have a safe space online. She's come for us. She said this about us. She said that. And so I accidentally and inadvertently found myself in a space where then every time I felt that you had retaliated, well, I had to say something, because now it wasn't just me. It was these people as well. You
became the spokesperson. I've done that too. A woman who won't mind me speaking about her, Shah Wasmond, and I was in that exact situation that you were just talking about, where I then became the spokesperson for all the people that had been hurt by her. I can now look back at that and see that everyone has their own narrative of things that happen. Me, you, all of those other people have their own narrative. Not all are true.
Yeah.
But I can see why you felt like that as well, that you had to then stand up and say those things up until, well, we haven't really had much to do with each other in the last couple of years, but like before that. But I think that what we need to do as as an online space is find a way where we communicate better about the things that we're hurt about. Because I've had a mindset coach recently, because this still happens to me to this day. Like, stuff like this happens to me every day. It always has. It always will. I'm opinionated. You're opinionated. You're always going to get people that don't like what you're talking about. And you're going to get that. You just are. And I can generally tell the people that are, and I knew you'd be one of them from the start, that would get trolled, because you're opinionated and you're feisty and you've got things to say, and we should be allowed to do that. But I think that the problem is compounded massively by the middle people. So let's say nothing had happened and there were none of these people came to you, and none of the people, I got just as many people come to me and say, oh, you know, I've never liked her because of this. She's lied about her, how much she earned, all this stuff, whatever. And that buoys you on. I think it buoys people on to be, it's like an echo chamber. We then feel justified in the things we're saying.
Massively, because it validates your emotions. And all we ever want as humans is to feel like we belong. And the quickest way to belong is to be validated. Yeah. And so when you're sat and you're feeling hurt or upset or angry, and somebody comes along and says, I see that. Yeah. And not only do I see it, but I've also felt that. Yeah. You very quickly form an echo chamber.
Yeah. And that echo chamber, when I talk about that to my team, because we've seen this now for 10 years, and we say that you can have a hater over here who hates a hater over here, that they will join in mutuality of their much bigger shared hatred of you and become best friends over it. I've seen that so many times.
Which is what happened with me and Nicola.
Oh, yes.
And I know we spoke about this, and I know you said, I haven't said anything about you, but in the process of me going, okay, what are the things we're going to talk about? What are the things we're not going to talk about? There was a post that was sent to me by one of those people in the middle a few weeks ago where you were talking about connection and had said, I even turned two haters into best friends. And I thought, oh, actually, this is a really good example of it could be about me. It could not be about me.
See, that one wasn't. But
because of the context of our relationship, it's easy to assume that
That's a really good topic, because that is something that happens. That's happened to me too, where I've seen someone write something that I know doesn't like me, and I'll see them write something and I will assume they're talking about me. And actually, half the time I don't need to assume it, because like you said, I'm prolific online. A million people will send it to me going, this is about you, isn't it? Yeah. And so then you just believe it is, but actually half the time it isn't. And one of the things I've started doing, because I have to write about things that aren't great in this industry. I'm a thought leader and it's part of who I am. But what I realized is that people were, more than one person was believing everything I said was about them. So there could be 20 people that believed that one post was about them. And so I've started to write a post and not post it for 6 months. Because then they don't think it's about them, because it's like too long ago. Yeah. But it's really hard to have that balance of being a thought leader and writing about concepts without people thinking it's about you. But I can see, again, like you've probably written stuff before and people have sent it to me and said, this is about you. And it may well not have been. But I think the middle people, I don't know how else, the bystander, I don't know what to call them. I would like to call them stirrers, but I don't think they're always doing it to be bad. I think they're doing it to care for you. So not just between you and I, but in every relationship that I've had where there's been a problem, I've had someone come to me and whisper in my ear and be like, this is bad that she's talking about you. We should do something about that. You should fight that. You shouldn't allow that to happen. That's happened so many times. Yeah. And I've often done what they've told me to do, thinking it's the right thing to do. I've even had a mindset coach about 5 years ago. Someone did something awful online, and a mindset coach told me, well, this is what you stand for. You should talk about this. Yeah. And actually I regret talking about it, because the backlash I got was never worth it. And I don't think it changes people always to talk about the things that they're doing anyway. If people have a stance, they have that stance. Yeah. But I think that there can be real trouble stirred by people with popcorn who don't have your best interests at heart. People have definitely come to me to to want to trigger me into doing a post or doing a live or saying something, because then they can sit back and watch because they haven't liked the other person.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I don't need to get involved. I'll just get Lisa to do it. I'll spark her. Then people know what will trigger me because I talk about it. It's bullying. And so they'll just spark that and off I'll go, and they'll sit there and watch it and be happy.
Well, I had this last night, as you know from the message I sent you this morning. So for the last 2 weeks, since you popped in my inbox and invited me here, I have what I call my council. They're my closest friends who I trust dearly and who are also emotionally intelligent enough to not project onto me when I ask for advice. And so the very first thing that I did after I received your message was went to my council, and I was like, what do we think of this? And I laid out straight away my pros, my cons, my concerns, what I would hope for. And then I said, what are your thoughts? And over the last 10 days, we've had some really healthy discussions about, is this a trap? Can I trust you? Can I come here and have a safe conversation? Yeah. If we do, what does it look like? How much could it help the industry for somebody to say, hold my hands up, this is what I did and said? And it's been really quite therapeutic.
I think that's a good thing when you have that group of people. My team are that group of people.
Yeah. And I think if you are somebody that doesn't have that group of people, go and get it really quickly. Yeah. Especially in the online space. Because then what happened was I did a post last night and I said, so here's something I never thought I was going to say.
I like that post.
I'm going on Lisa's podcast. And I thought, so I did the post for a few reasons. One, I'm really transparent. I make a real point now of trying to be really transparent. If I'm going to do something, and I haven't always seen myself this way. I was very much a business owner for the longest time. And now I really do see myself as a leader. I've stepped into an industry where I'm talking about female friendship, the power of female relationships, and I want to lead that space. And if I'm going to lead that space appropriately, I feel that a duty of care to be transparent. And I knew that there would be people that would be hurt by me coming and even having this conversation, because for the longest time, they felt hurt by you and held by me.
Yeah. So they were like, pro you, bad Lisa, don't do this because it might change things for them.
Yes. And so that was one of the reasons I did the post. I did the post because I wanted to be transparent. We're going to have this conversation and here's all the reasons why. I wanted to do the post because I wanted people to know in advance, you might be upset, you might be triggered, you might be hurt, but here this is. And there were lots of other reasons that I did the post. But what happened after the post was my inbox did not stop pinging. And I had people in my inbox last night that I have not seen hide nor hair of for 2-3 years saying,
I know who they are.
Yeah, like, this isn't safe. Can we talk? Let me tell you about an incident. You have to know about this. You need to know. And for me, that's the bit that's really dangerous.
Really
because
dangerous.
If I hadn't already, if I wasn't who I am today, if I couldn't critically think for myself, if I didn't have a council of people guiding me healthily, I could have really easily have taken that information, messaged you and been like, this is off, we're not doing it. Gone on a Facebook tangent again. Yeah. Like there's so much.
Yeah, I found these things out that Lisa has done. And you did the right thing, which was to come to me and be really honest and say, look, these things have been told to me. I could tell because of something you said who it was straight away. So I knew the reasons. But if it's an ex-employee, an ex-employee has a grudge against me at the moment because she's not working with me. So she's spreading rumours. And luckily you weren't the first. So I'd already had a pattern this week of this happening. Yeah. So when you came to me, it wasn't unexpected. And so I was waiting for it. And so I was like, okay, I know why this is happening and I can tell you why. But imagine if I didn't know who that person was. And I was like, I don't know why. Why is someone saying that I said these things that I didn't say? Then it just becomes a whole other thing online.
It's massive. And I think there were definitely things, and I said this in the message to you this morning, there were definitely things that I read and I thought, well, yeah.
Makes sense.
It makes sense. If I've had a fallout with somebody and that's a situation, I'd have done and said the same thing. So that's just part of a fallout. But then there were things that I heard and I read and I was like, that just feels...
Well, it felt like hate campaign stuff.
That was the term I used, It felt like a hate campaign because that's exactly what those things would have been. And the reason that I wanted to bring them to you, and I'm really conscious that we've already had a conversation that your listeners will not know about, which is why I feel like I'm repeating myself. But I wanted to bring them to you because I know the things I've done, and I don't do things that I don't stand by, and I might regret them later, but I'll have done them and say, do you know what, that was a shitty move on my part, but yes, I did it.
Yeah.
And I really wanted, if we were going to have this conversation, for us to have it from the level of saying, here's two people that have evolved into certainly thought leaders. We shape industry. You shape your industry. I'm shaping mine.
Absolutely.
Like, we deserve to be able to get to a level where we can say,
we've done some stupid things.
Yeah.
And we have.
And that's why I wanted to bring them to you.
Yeah. And I'm glad you did. Who cares about all this stuff?
Yeah.
The more interesting thing is why a middle person feels the need to do those things. Because if we didn't hear from these middle people, these people who always tell us, like, this person said this person did this, like the person that wrote to you last night, like, if that person cared about you, like Nicola does, or like any of your counsel, I would have hoped that before last night, when you wrote that post, she would have come to you and been like, how are you? Like, how are you doing? I haven't spoken to you for ages. Yeah. For whatever reason. But no, you hadn't heard from her for years until there was a way that she could maybe stir a pot. And it did. It didn't succeed because you're here right now talking to me. I'm really pleased about that. But it could have done. It could have made things very different. We could have had, this could have gone on for another 5 years without us understanding each other's perspectives. And I think communication is the only way we change this industry. The reason I wanted you here today is because I see this isn't just a me and you problem. You know, because you do this work. Yeah. This is a problem, especially this year, that I see across all of the people I work with. So many people come to me and say, this person has said this about me, or I've heard this person saying this, or this gang of people doesn't like me and is saying this online. And it has to stop. And I don't know how to get it to stop, but that's why I wanted to invite you on. But I can't get it to stop unless I don't become part of the problem. This year, so many things have happened to me online. People have said so many lies about me online, and I have receipts for everything. I keep receipts now. I don't want to be the person that keeps receipts, and now I have to. But I've got receipts for all the things that people have said about me that aren't true, or being bitchy, or an ex-employee said that I made her take a post down that was when she spoke about mental health because it didn't look good for the company. I mean, I don't know about many things I do. I do some really bad things, I'm sure. But I talk about mental health all the freaking time. It was like the worst lie you could have told. And people see it. People say, oh, I've seen all these lies about you. What are you going to do about it? I've done nothing. I've not once written a post. Yeah. I've just decided this year, in part because I'm working with Hormozy and I see him do it. People say all this nasty stuff about it that he's supposed to have said and done. And he does nothing. He just does nothing at all and lets it burn out. Yeah. I'm the kind of person that always felt the need to defend myself. I think when you're bullied, you do. You just feel the need to defend yourself. And so I did that for years. And then this year I said, I'm not going to do it. I think it's really hard not to.
It's really hard. So I think part of the challenge, and, you know, that article about me was, you know, I was the bully, I was this, I was that. But majority of my childhood, I was bullied.
That's the bit I knew.
And not just from kids at school, but from adults in my own home. Yeah. I had a horrific childhood. And so when people do things, I have this innate, almost, it used to take over me. I had no control over it. I'm much better now. But I used to have this innate force that would almost come out of my body that would mean that I would have to say to somebody, I didn't do that. I didn't say that. Here's the exact reason. I totally get that. And I think it's one of the reasons why I'm so super transparent now. I will say, I've said this, I've said that, I've done that, because then you can't ever say I've done something I've not done. Yeah,
correct.
I will never ever be in a position where somebody can hold me hostage against my own words. If I've said something, I've said it, and if I've not, you'll know I've not because I'm telling you everything else I've said. But it's really difficult, I think, for most people, but I think specifically for people that have experienced wounding, trauma, hurt, upset, bullying, any of that, I think you do have this need to validate yourself. You have this need to say, that's not me. I'm not this bad person. Like, here's what I've done. Here's what and I think the difficulty, and I think we share this, I think the difficulty for people like you and I is that unfortunately we do have a trail of broken friendships behind us.
We do.
And so that feeds into the narrative of, well, she must be awful. Cally must be awful because she used to be friends with this person and she's not anymore.
She's not, yeah. But is that because we have both had a trajectory of success? And I honestly believe that as you get more successful, some people will hold that against you.
Yeah, I do think that's part of it. I think when you become unrelatable to people and they no longer see themselves in you, and this happens throughout a lot of friendships, not just particularly successful ones, but when there is a shift in a dynamic. If you've always been two friends that, you know, have bonded over drinking and one of you gets sober, there's a shift.
Yeah.
If you are two friends that have been fiercely independent, you know, single ladies, and then one of you gets married and has a baby, there's a shift. I think when we are no longer the people that mirror each other and we recognize ourselves in each other, it really does cause a shift. And I think in particular with success, especially financial success, I think money causes so many issues for so many people anyway, that there's already a foundation of hurt that they're working from. And I think financial success absolutely causes a real dynamic to shift in friendships.
Yeah. And even non-friendships, it makes people think differently about you, I think.
Yeah.
So if we could get rid of the people doing the telling each other things, I think that would solve 50% of the problem. I wouldn't solve it all, but I definitely think it would stop the stirring, which causes a lot of the hurt.
I think the challenge with I would call them pile-ons, which is a really awful term. And I even hate that I'm using that, but people that pile on to a situation. I think the challenge is most of the time, and you said this a little bit earlier, I don't think they're trying to stir the pot. I don't think they're trying to be like, go get her like bread. They're not trying to spearhead anything.
No, most of the times they're trying to validate you.
They are trying to validate you. They're trying to validate me. But because they're mirrors, they're trying to validate themselves in us.
Okay.
And so what happens is they don't feel, and this is a very generalized sweeping term, but most people don't feel comfortable or confident to navigate conflict. So they look for other people that are doing that, and then they join a force, they take a side, they, you know, this is where I am and I'm camp this person. And that is usually a safety mechanism for them, because I don't know how to articulate my voice, but here's somebody articulating hers, and the challenges she's got are what I've also felt. So they then come in, and when they report back, when they're like, this person said this and this happened and I was at an event and somebody said this. Yes, they are really trying to be like, be careful, I'm worried about you. But the bigger threat is, I'm now at risk, because if they're doing this about you, they'll do it about me if I'm visible. And I don't have the strength, the conviction, the articulation that you do. So if they take you down, then by nature,
what's
I'm
going to happen to me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So well, I don't think we can solve that problem, as in we can't make other people act differently. No. And I've always known that. What we can do is show a different way that we can act. So we don't become the pylons.
Yeah,
we 100%. Don't become the people that say, well, she thinks this about you and therefore I'm going to believe it. We take it as, because what we've seen today, I think, is that there is no truth. There's two versions of events seen by two people with some other people giving some evidence of those things. And so there's somewhere in the middle of our version of events is the truth.
And I hate that. And the reason that I hate that is, one, it's a childhood trauma for me. I grew up in a household where I was told all the time, there's two stories and there's one truth. And it used to irritate me. And the reason that it irritated me then and the reason that it irritates me now is because it invalidates both people's experiences. I genuinely think there's two versions of the truth. There's my truth and there's your truth.
That's a better way of putting it.
And there's my truth and there's their truth. And who am I to invalidate their experience and who are they to invalidate mine? And communication helps to soothe that, because it allows us to find comfort where we can't find validation. So as an example of this, if you, instead of blocking me, you'd have come to me, you'd have said, what you've said here is disgusting and it's triggered me and I can't believe that you have said X, Y, and Z and blah, blah, blah. That wouldn't have helped.
Would it not?
No. The reason it wouldn't have helped is because you've made it all about you and your response and your reaction.
Which is the only thing people can do, I think.
When we don't learn different skills. Yeah. And what that does in that moment is entirely invalidates everything that I feel, felt, and have gone through. And so instead of meeting in this mutual place, I then do that thing that we do where we defend. Well, she's attacked me, so I'll defend.
Yeah.
And so actually what we do is we end up getting further and further apart. If you'd have come to me and said, there is some real discourse around what you've said in this article, and because of my history, I'm quite triggered by this, but I'd like you to have an opportunity to say, you know, have you been misrepresented? You know, have they changed something? Have you this? What was your intention behind this? We're both validated in that moment.
There's no way I would have been able to do that at that point. All I saw was I was just massively triggered. Yeah. And in fact, the reason I blocked rather than anything else is because I didn't think you'd know. So I thought, I'll just block her. She won't even know and I won't see anything.
Yeah.
And I did think maybe in the months later, I would unblock you and you won't even know and everything would be normal and we'd carry on. But that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But my intention, and I do think intention is important, my intention wasn't to make you sad. It was to make me safe.
Yeah. And I think that's how a lot of friendships break down, because people move to defend, protect, keep themselves safe. And in doing that, because we're not intentionally going out of our way to learn new skills, particularly around friendship, we then invalidate the other party's experience. And that's how we end up with the two versions and a truth. Well, actually, there's two truths and they both need honouring and validating. But not many humans get to a place where they can say, I'm triggered as fuck.
Yeah.
And I also want to be there for this person because they're my friend. We tend to go, I'm triggered, I'm activated, you have to go the hell away.
Yeah.
And then we create that distance, which is really hard to come back from.
Why do you think men don't have these issues?
This is like one of my favourite subjects. This is one of my favourite subjects because men and women are just, we're not even the same in any way, shape or form. And we have very different social conditioning, and that social conditioning is the root of why we are so different. Men grow up in a world that is for them. They are naturally safe in this world. Women grow up in a world where until 40 years ago, their only safety was find a man. Because that's the only way they get a mortgage and a bank account and are safe. And so when your entire societal conditioning is safety means find a man, and there are 4 billion women also trying to find an eligible man, every other woman on the planet becomes an enemy.
So we can blame the patriarchy?
I can blame the patriarchy for absolutely everything, Lisa. Absolutely everything. But the way that men and women are then conditioned is really different. And so men do have fallouts and conflict, but men are physically aggressive. Women are relationally aggressive.
Right.
So if a man has a problem with you, not you because you're a woman, but if two men have a problem, if a man has a problem with another man, they're likely going to come to heads because they're going to bottle it up or they're going to let it explode because they're the only two settings that they have. Women are relationally aggressive. So we're not taught how to have healthy conflict. We're not taught how to deal with challenges. We're taught from a very young age that if she doesn't like you, it's probably because she's jealous of you.
We are taught that.
And I had this conversation with a coach a few months ago who came to me and said to me, this is a situation that's going on and I know it's happening because they're jealous of me. And I said to her, but what if it's not because they're jealous of you? What if it's because she doesn't like you? What if it's because you've got different values
and it's
to her?
Okay to not be liked by all, right?
Exactly this, right? We're not all, there's 8 billion people on this planet. Like, I like about 5.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, so of course we're gonna have that. But because the only thing that we know is if he's mean to you, he likes you. And if she's mean to you, she's jealous of you. It feels safer to be around men from a very young age.
I definitely have always felt safer around men.
Yeah, which is actually ludicrous because statistically, if you're ever going to be murdered, it's going to be by the man closest to you. Like, no offense to Sam or Nigel, but they're the people I'm watching.
Yeah.
But women don't know how to have healthy conflict because we've never been socialized to have healthy conflict. And everything that we are taught about each other is that we're not safe for each other, not to trust each other. And there's really clear examples of where things like this happen. And I don't think people can necessarily go back far enough to understand the trigger. So when women fall out, the first thing that we go to is she's a bitch, right? Like it's the very first thing we'll say about other women. And when we then calm down and we take ourselves through the process of, okay, why have I said she's a bitch? What's the specific action? What is the specific attitude, the behavior, the word that was used? And we take it back. Most of the time, we can pinpoint something within us.
Oh, it's a trigger always.
That we've never dealt with. But then we don't know how to deal with it. So we stay in this perpetual cycle. And I think, unfortunately, the online space breeds that because it's not a safe space.
No.
It's a competitively aggressive space where two narratives cannot exist at the same time without somebody losing their absolute mind.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the types of people in our space that are the ones that lose their minds are the ones that have also cultivated big audiences. So it's not like I've lost my mind and then it's gone away. It's like I've lost my mind and 50,000 people have followed that trail and gone out into the world with it. And so the ripple effect is so negative.
Yeah.
And we're all over here just trying to stay safe.
It is exactly that. And I think even if you haven't got a big platform, if you talk about someone with a big platform, you get PR. And so, you know, sometimes people, you know, let's take an example of if somebody was to leave a job, they would leave a job, a normal job, and they'd go somewhere else. If someone leaves a job online, first thing they do is go to Facebook and talk about how horrible the boss was, because why wouldn't you? You've got a platform. But what's really interesting about that is if I was a nobody and that happened, if there was nobody that followed me, no one would care. But because lots of people follow me, I get it worse because then I have to deal with anyone that's ever disliked me for any reason, whether it is jealousy or whether it's just I said something once online they didn't agree with. All of them will like that.
Yeah.
And that can be really hard. I think that lots of people in this industry talk about how hard it is for people just getting going, or how hard it is when there's somebody who is against someone with a bigger platform, because that must be hard. And I've been there, and so I know what that's like.
Yeah.
But I don't think people ever see it the other way around. It's actually really hard to be the thought leader who is trying to balance saying things that help the majority of people in your audience with not having everyone hate you at the same time. It's really hard to do that because I'll always want to try and protect my... So let's say if I was talking about somebody that I believed was a pyramid scheme, I will want to protect my audience. Mm-hmm. The only way I can do that is tell them that I think this is a pyramid scheme. By doing that, I hurt anyone that is in that pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
And they will automatically hate everything I do, and there'll be a million Facebook posts about it. Mm-hmm. And there's always that balance. And you can... I don't think there's ever a safe space for all. Like, you know, when you said, you know, it isn't a safe space online. I don't think it is either. And I think that people always say that they have events and things that are a safe space. Most events that are a safe space for lots of people are the opposite for me, because I am somebody that has gone big enough that I will have clients that don't like me. Yeah, I just will. I can't have 6,000 clients a year and not have that. I will have peers that don't like me for various reasons. I will have ex-employees that don't like me. They all go to those things. That's like the least safe space that I can possibly be in.
Yeah, and I get that, because for the longest time, and I think going back to like, what can we do to change it? I can tell you about some of the things that I've done to change it, because for the longest time, I perpetuated it by being afraid of it. So I would get invited to events, and my very first question is Lisa Johnson going to be there? That was my question.
We were at an event last year, and we both coexisted happily.
Earlier this year.
Oh, was it this year?
Earlier this year. We
coexisted fine.
Because we didn't interact.
Yeah, but that's what I generally do with people I don't like. I don't go and make things bad for them.
Yeah. But I think, again, though, that's like a really different, because that's also not safe. Like, so for the first part of like our falling out, for, you know, want of a better word, anytime I got invited somewhere, my first question would be, is Lisa Johnson going to be there? Because that's not a safe space for me. It's not a safe space for me if you're there, and it's not a safe space for me if people that are around you are there, because I know instantly by the way that, I've been treated, had feedback, felt, been
I get
made
it.
to feel.
It's how I feel when you're with Nicola and, you know.
And then the more that we feed into that, the worse it feels.
Of course.
And I got to a point earlier this year, and actually a few of my friends, when I told them about it, laughed, and they were like, that is so petty. And I was like, I actually don't think it's petty. I actually think this is how we calm shit down. I started being in rooms with people that would say, oh yeah, Lisa Johnson, blah, blah, blah. And I started saying, who's that? Who's that? I don't know who that is. And then they would go, oh, who does one to many? And I'd be like, oh yeah, Lisa, I know. And move on. And I've gotten to a place, and actually this happened 3 weeks ago. I've gotten to a place where I was at an event and somebody was like, oh yeah, and I work with Lisa. And I was like, oh, I used to work with Lisa. And they were like, really? And I was like, yeah, one to many changed my life. 2 years ago, I wouldn't have said that.
No.
Now I'm much more even keel in my approach. And I think because of how I handle it, far less people feel afraid and intimidated by it.
That's a good point. And maybe then you don't get the pylons depending on how you act. Because if you'd have said, oh, I didn't like her, there might have been someone else in the room that goes, oh yeah, I don't like her either. And then it creates a thing. Whereas if you don't say anything, they don't say anything.
Yeah. And I'm very much like, when my inbox was pinging last night, I could feel my nervous system dysregulating.
Your cortisol would go.
Because that's the first time in a while this has happened to me. I've not mentioned your name. I've avoided conversations. I've stayed out of rooms. And so I haven't had to feel that. And last night, just by saying those 2 words, Lisa Johnson, my inbox, bing, bing,
yeah,
bing,
it happens to lots of people.
And I won't, but I could show you now the amount of messages that I didn't open because I thought, I know what this is. And this is not about me. This is about you. And you have to go and deal with that now.
Yeah.
And if you're coming to me and you're saying to me, like, this is an experience that I've got and it's made me feel this way, help me work through it. That's very different to, I had this experience, you have to go and do this. This is how everybody's been treated.
We'll put this on you.
Yeah. And I've really disconnected in order to grow. Like,
if it makes you feel better, I've had the opposite. So last night when you put that message on, I got hundreds of comments thanking me and you for doing it.
It's really good.
And saying, I love that you're doing this because no one admits their failings and they don't. And I think that what this industry needs right now is healing. And if it doesn't come from, it's easy to talk about these things if we're all happy with everyone and everyone's getting on. It's much harder to talk about it when we're still in it. And we were still in it.
I was still in it up till this morning. I was on the train this morning thinking, I can just still say no when I get there. I can get into the interview and then say, actually, no, I don't want to do this. I can get halfway through and think, no, like very much still, because that doesn't go away overnight.
No, of course not.
And my truth's still my truth.
Yeah.
Your truth's still your truth. And when you have to bring those together and they don't align, but we can't invalidate each other because that's not right or fair, that becomes uncomfortable. And unfortunately, most people can't sit with the uncomfortableness long
I can and have
to make
a lot
a decision
this year. I'm all right with being uncomfortable. I'm all right with knowing that someone has a different truth to me that is their experience, because I can see lots of different narratives. So I've had people come to me about a person and said, this person said this about me. And then the other person has said, she said this horrible thing about me. And they're both my clients. And I'm like, put your heads together. Yeah. Like, neither of you are right or wrong. You're just seeing your own. We all see life through our lens of everything that's happened to us before right up to this moment. And we can't not do that. There is no way to not do it. We can understand that we have firefighter parts. We can understand that we have defensive parts that are always going to come out to protect us. We always will. But we can't change how other people see us. And I don't think we should try. No. I think we should just try, I think, if anything, to be more understanding of how the other person might feel and that maybe there's more around it. So if I'd have thought, maybe she's getting shit from all these different people because she's had this article out there. Maybe she's not sitting there gloating about her article because she's a bully. You know, the vision I had in my head, maybe there's a different version of this that I'm not seeing. And if you'd have done the same, maybe she's just triggered, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
Yeah.
It would have been fine.
But
I'm glad
in that moment, without the skills that we have today, we don't know to do that.
No. So we need to just tell those skills, which I think you're doing as part of your work.
I'm really
to
trying.
Other people.
had the privilege of speaking to your sister earlier when I was waiting, and I was talking to her about the work that I've done, and we were saying about how adult female friendships are really hard. And I said, I've lived and breathed this for 2 years now, and I actually don't know how we're doing it naturally, because it is so complex and it is so layered and it is so nuanced, and women naturally have very different triggers to each other than men do. And so we end up falling into these spaces where we say things like, I just get on better with men. And it's not that we just get on better with men. It's just that men don't see us as competition.
That's so true.
Yeah. But we don't take the time to really look at each other and think about what is true for them. And I think, you said at the very beginning about communication being the key here. I'm a massive fan of communication. Even if it's difficult, we've got to do it. But I think the biggest thing that I try to teach is not to invalidate somebody's experience. And I did a post about this the other day. Somebody had done a post and they'd said, get yourself friends who defend your name in every room. And I did a post that said, don't ever defend my name in a room, because if somebody's experience of me is that, who are you to tell them they're wrong for that? And there's only two versions of that, right? I have either done that thing and therefore they're validated in that emotion and that way of seeing me, or I haven't done that thing, but I'm not going to change their mind. So who am I to try and do that? Just let their truth be their truth now.
Yeah. I think that you might not change that person's mind, but I've definitely had people defend me in a room that has changed people listening's minds because they trust that person. I quite like that. And people have done this with you, by the way. They have defended you in a room. I've seen it happen.
Wow. They shouldn't be doing that. I've told them not to.
They do
don't defend me.
They do it. And I think that that's not a bad thing, because I think that I wouldn't have invited you here if there was hate, if I hated you. I wouldn't have invited you on here if other people hadn't said, I think you've got the wrong end of the stick. I don't think she ever meant to be nasty. I think she was defending herself. I think she felt backed into a corner. I don't think if those people had not said that, I would have had a different opinion to invite you onto this podcast. And so I do think I think it's all right for people to say their experience of someone. Like, there was somebody that was mean in this industry to me that you know about for a very long time. And for a long time, I held a grudge against that person because that was real pain that I felt from that person. But so many people said, remember that when people act out, hurt people, right? Yeah. When they act out, it's because of how they're feeling. And it took me a long time to be okay with that. And eventually I reached out to her and we met up. And I got the truth. She was feeling like that. Like, there is always a reason that people feel a certain way, and we can't know it all.
No.
But I like that we can maybe show that if we can sit here in a room and talk through things, and I don't know about you, but I definitely feel better about knowing your side of the story. I like to know that it wasn't just you hating on me. There were reasons for things. That always makes me feel better. Then other people can do that. Like, let's invite other people who have a problem with somebody else to just call them. I've done that a lot this year. Yeah. And just call them and go, let's just have a sit down and let's see if we can work through it. Because no one feels nice when there's people out there that don't like them or have little groups against them or any of those kind of things. It doesn't feel nice for anyone. It doesn't even feel nice for the person that's doing it.
No.
So maybe we can teach everybody not to.
I think if more people were able to make the first move, and we're able to make it from a place of groundedness, we would have healthier conversations and healthier friendships. 100%. And one of the things that was commented on the post last night, one of my lovely friends, Emma, had wrote on it, if you get an opportunity, talk about bids for connection, because that changed my view of friendship forever.
Ooh, what's that?
And I think this is exactly what we're talking about. So in female to female connection, well, it's in all connection, but particularly in female to female, we're more sensitive to it. There is a framework called bids for connection, which basically says anytime we do something towards another person, we're asking for a bid for connection. I want to connect with you. And there's only ever 3 ways that we respond. We lean in, we lean out, or we miss it. So you if we use the example of you inviting me on the podcast, that was a bid for connection.
Yeah.
That was you saying, hey, I'm doing this. And I had a choice to lean in, lean out, or delete it and miss it completely.
Yeah.
And these are the types of things that we're naturally doing every single day, every time we do something. But because we don't know that that's what we're doing, and we get busy with life and we have stressors and problems and challenges, we miss or lean out of so many bids for connection. And actually, if we just started to give more clear bids that give somebody a real option to say yes to this, I think we would start to have better conversations. And I think a healthy conversation changes everything.
I love that. We will end it there. And I really hope that it has helped this industry start to talk to each other, because that's all I want to happen. I want it to be a lovely industry where we all have fun like we used to. But thank you for being here and being brave enough to be here and have this conversation with me.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Making Money Online. If you want to start your online business journey, you can get my free course, Fabulous Foundations, right now in the show notes. I'll see you next week for another episode.